Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about waste management. Contents of my presentation include introduction to waste and waste management, classification of waste, health hazards of accumulated solid waste, non-hazardous or solid waste management. Learning objectives. By the end of this session, students should be able to define waste and waste management, classify waste, health hazards of accumulated waste, and different methods of solid waste management. Waste. We all know waste. It is also known as rubbish, trash, refuse, garbage, junk, or litter. It is unwanted or useless material. Waste is any substance or object which the holder discards or intends or is required to discard. We have seen waste accumulated here and there, creating a site of nuisance. Waste can be of different origin. It can be household waste, it can be healthcare or medical waste, agriculture, industry, factories, different origins of waste we have seen. But most important is managing them. Waste accumulated here and there is obviously a site of nuisance, but waste management is equally important so that we don't face any harmful effects or health hazards or harm to the environment. So, waste management is the collection, transport, processing, recycling, or disposal of waste materials. Now, this term usually relates to materials produced by human activity and is generally undertaken to reduce their effect on health and the environment or aesthetics. Now, waste management can involve solid, liquid, gaseous, or radioactive substances. Each of these substances are supposed to be managed in different methods. Next is our classification. So waste is broadly classified into two, based on the source or origin, based on nature of waste. So first one is based on source or origin. It can be household waste, that is solid waste and electronics, wastewater treatment, sewage, solid waste, chemicals, healthcare or medical waste, including medicines, bandages, gloves, body fluids, body parts, agriculture or forestry, which includes pesticides, fertilizers, manure, slaughter waste, industry, textile, plastics, chemicals, constructions, concrete, metal, glass, wood, mining, waste rock, mine water, and chemicals. Second one is the based on nature of waste. It can be non-hazardous or hazardous waste. Now, non-hazardous or solid waste is all waste which has not been classified as hazardous. That is, which has no or which has not been identified as potentially causing harm to the environment and human health. Next one is a hazardous waste. Now, these waste have been identified as potentially causing harm to environment and human health, and therefore they need special and separate treatment for handling. It includes healthcare or the medical waste, which originates from the human and animal healthcare systems. It usually consists of medicines, chemicals, bandages, medical equipments, body fluids, and body parts. Now, these medical waste, they can be infectious, toxic, or radioactive and contain bacteria and harmful microorganisms. So, they are hazardous waste. Second is our radioactive waste, which contain radioactive materials. Third one is the e-waste or the electronic waste. Now, these waste are derived from the electronic equipments, such as an end-of-life computer, phone, and home appliances. That is our dead or hardly or barely working electronic devices. Now, e-waste is generally classified as hazardous waste because it contains many hazardous metallic contaminants like lead, cadmium, beryllium, etc. And all of these are flammable. So, it causes harm to the environment and as well as it causes health hazards. The next one is we should know about what is sewage, sewage, and night soil. Now, these terms are basically frequently used in waste and waste management. So, sewage is wastewater from a community containing solid and liquid excreta derived from houses, street and yard washings, factories, and industries. Sewage is wastewater which contains, sorry, which does not contain human excreta. Then night soil, human excrement collected at night from buckets, cesspools, and outhouses, and sometimes used as fertilizers. Now, we know what is solid waste now. So, what are the health hazards of accumulated solid waste? If a solid waste is accumulated in a place, what kind of harmful effects does it cause to us? Now, solid waste, it's a large source of methane, which is a powerful greenhouse gas that is particularly impactful in the short term. Like even in a shorter period of time, it has found to be causing health hazards. Then uncollected solid waste, it contributes to flooding, air and water pollution and public health impacts and also causes respiratory ailments, diarrhea and dengue fever, etc. Then it is obviously it is unaesthetic and it produces a very bad odor. Now, non-hazardous or solid waste management. This hierarchy is given by WHO, that is the World Health Organization, in 2014. It says that solid waste management is based on the hierarchy of waste management, that is reduce, reuse, recycle. And the fourth R was added lately, that is recovery. So first one, what we say is it is preferred to avoid generating waste and thus minimize the quantity entering the waste stream. First of all, avoid the waste which is being created. Then, wherever it is practicable and wherever it is safe, waste items that can be recovered for secondary use should be used for that. That is the preferable method. Wherever recycling is possible, it should be done. Then, waste that cannot be recovered must be dealt with the least harmful options like any treatment or land disposal so that it reduces the impact on health and the environment. Then we have to segregate. Now we know what is waste and what are the health hazards of accumulated waste. So what do we do next? So we have to segregate the waste. Now waste segregation is very advantageous and it has to be broken down into different sectors. So here we break down it into as recyclable waste, biodegradable waste and non-recyclable waste. Then after segregation, maybe sometimes the waste is not collected at that particular time. So you have to store the waste. Every day waste might not be collected. When it is a household waste or house to house waste, where the municipality people come and collect waste. That might not happen daily or maybe alternate days. So you have to store the waste. So for storing the waste, there should be dustbins. Proper dustbins should be provided. That is large enough and should have close fitting covers. Then proper storage of waste is very important while you're awaiting the collection. Then comes the collection. Now collection of waste and transport. Now waste collection is the collection of solid waste from point of production. That is, it can be residential, it can be industrial, commercial or institutional to the point of treatment or disposal. So municipal solid waste is collected in several ways. That can be house to house waste collection. That is, waste collectors visit each individual house to collect garbage and the user generally pays a fee for this service. Then it can be community bins. We have seen big community bins in the areas. So these can be users bring their garbage to community bins that are placed at fixed points in a neighborhood or a locality. When we are living in a community living areas or even flats, they have these waste collection bins outside. So here the municipal waste, solid waste, they come, they pick up, and it is on the designated day or a scheduled day when they come and collect the waste. Then curbside pickup. These are users leave their garbage directly outside their homes according to a garbage pickup schedule set with the local authorities. Then self-delivered. Now you can go and deliver the waste as well. As in generators deliver the waste directly to the disposal sites or transfer stations, or hire a third party for this waste transportation. Then contracted or delegated services. Now here there are businesses which they hire a firm like a municipality with municipal facilities. They arrange the collection or they schedule the collection with the particular customer and with a nominal charge. So that is how waste collection happens. Transportation, again, waste should be transported using enclosed vans to the area of disposal. Now, there are different methods of solid waste disposal. First one is dumping. Then we have controlled tipping or sanitary landfill, incineration, composting, manure pits, and burial. Now, here, first one is dumping. Now, here, dumping is basically it is the refuse, whatever the waste is there, it is dumped in low-lying areas. Advantages are it is most economical, easy method of disposal of dry refuse, and it is suitable for reclamation of land. And as a result of bacterial action, the refuse it decreases considerably in volume and is converted gradually into humus. Disadvantages, the refuse is exposed to flies and rodents because it's not covered with earth. So it is exposed to flies and rodents. It is a source of nuisance because of the smell and sight. Again, because it is not covered. The loose refuse is dispersed by the action of the wind. As I said before, it is not covered, so it's just dumped in a low-lying area. So there are chances of dispersion of loose refuse because of the wind. Then drainage from dumps contributes to the pollution of surface and groundwater. If there is any water source nearby, so any drainage, it might lead to water pollution. Next one is controlled tipping and sanitary landfill. Now, landfills are an important part of any urban waste management system. So there are three different methods of this controlled tipping and sanitary landfill. That is the trench method, ramp method, and area method. The trench method in this level, we have to first look for a level ground. Then in this diagram, you can see you have to look for a level ground, and then a trench is dug out, which is 6 to 10 feet in deep, which is 6 to 10 feet in deep and 12 to 36 feet wide. So it should the depth of the trench should be 6 to 10 feet, and the width of the trench should be 12 to 36 feet. Now the refuse is compacted and covered with excavated earth. Next method is the ramp method. So here in the ramp method, the area which we use is moderately sloping. The terrain is moderately sloping and some excavation is done to secure the covering material. Next is your area method. Now in this area method, it is used for filling land depressions. Wherever certain land depressions are there, land is not even. In that type of area, it can be used. So it's used for filling the land depression. The refuse is deposited and it is sealed by the exposed earth or mud cover. And this method has a disadvantage of requiring a supplemental earth from outside source because there is land depression. So there is no sufficient land there. So you need to cover the refuse, you need a supplemental earth. Then advantages, there is no nuisance to the sight and smell, respect like the in dumping we had. Then it prevents infestation by flies, decomposition of organic matter. So because the refuse is covered, so the disadvantages which we had in dumping, here it becomes the advantages. Then disadvantages, it requires supplemental earth, as I told in the area method, and it is a little more expensive. Next method is incineration. Now, incineration refers to the combustion of waste under controlled conditions. Now, here what happens? The refuse that can be disposed of hygienically by burning or incineration. And it requires preliminary separation of dust or ash from the refuse. It's basically used in the healthcare waste disposal, and it is little expensive because we have to plant the incinerators. Then next one is the composting. Now, composting is a process that optimizes the natural decomposition of food, garden, and agricultural waste into fertilizer like a product that is called as compost. Now, here the volume of the organic waste that can decrease by around 60 to 90% as a result of this composting. Now, this is a very relatively low cost strategy wherein you can convert the waste as a organic value or organic nutrient which can enrich the soil of the farms, parks, and household gardens. So here the principal byproduct of this is carbon dioxide, water, and heat. So here what happens, the matter is broken down under bacterial action, resulting in the formation of relatively stable humus-like material that is called as the compost. And since the byproducts I told, that is the carbon dioxide, water, and heat, that is almost 60 degrees Celsius or higher. So it destroys all the pathogenic agents which are present. And there are different methods of composting. That is mechanical composting, Bangalore method, or that hot fermentation process, windrow composting. So here the first one is the mechanical composting. So in mechanical composting, it's a aerobic method. Now, mechanical method that drastically speeds up the natural decomposition process by closely controlling the temperature and oxygen levels in a composting chamber. So here what happens, the first you have to clear off all the salvageable material like the rags, bones, metals, glass, and other items which are likely going to interfere with the grinding operation. So the waste is then, once you clear off all of this, the waste is then introduced into the pulverizing chamber. So in the pulverizing chamber, it is pulverized into smaller pieces to reduce the size of the particles. It is then mixed in a rotating machine so as to turn or agitate the material at periodic intervals to speed up the breakdown of waste. Now, once the organic material is processed, it must sit outside of the vessel to allow completion of the decomposition process. This maturation stage can take around 4 to 6 weeks. This method is expensive than the other methods, but it requires less land and because of the faster processing time. Advantages: it is less attractive to flies and rodents, provides better condition for bacterial decomposition. Next method is the Bangalore method or the hot fermentation process. Now here what happens? It's an anaerobic method and it was developed by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Here trenches are dug. So here again we have to dig trenches. Now these trenches, they are dug upon the amount of refuse and night soil we need to dispose. So depth should be greater than 3 feet, are not recommended because of slow decomposition. So depth which is approximately 3 feet or less than 3 feet is enough so that there is faster decomposition, and the pitch should be located at least 800 meters away from the city limits. Here we have layers. So first layer of a refuse is spread at the bottom of the trench. Over this, the night soil is added. Then alternate layers of refuse and night soil is added till the heap rises 1 feet above the ground level. So it should raise at least 1 feet above the ground level. Then the top layer should be of refuse and at least 9 inches in thickness. Then the heap is covered with an excavated earth and it is compacted. So here you see there first there is in the image you can see first there is refuse, then night soil, then refuse, then night soil, and then refuse. So here the last layer of refuse, it should be at least 9 inches in thickness. And in overall it should be 1 feet above the ground level. So what happens? After this, within 7 days, the bacterial action of considerable heat is produced, that is over 60 degrees Celsius. The generated is in waste, the which is waste, it is generated into a compost mass. And because of the intense heat which persists over 2 to 3 weeks, this causes decomposition of the material. And approximately at the end of 6 months, the decomposition is complete. And the resulting material which is there, it is a well decomposed, odorless, innocuous material with manurial value. It can be used in the fields. Next method of composting is windrow composting. Now, windrow composting, it is a process where organic waste is placed in a large pile or row, which is known as a windrow. Here you can see in the image. And periodically it is turned. The mixing process, it introduces oxygen into the pile to promote microbial activity. Although there are specialized equipments are needed and they are known as windrow turners. These can be used for this purpose, and inserting a perforated pipe into the middle of the compost pile to force the air through the pile will also promote increased microbial activity. Next one is the manure pits. Now these manure pits, it's basically done by individual householders. It's an easy method of waste disposal. So here what happens, the individual householders, they dug uh, uh, a place, maybe in the kitchen garden or somewhere in the backyard, where they dump the garbage, cattle dung, straw, and leaves, and they cover it with earth after each day's dumping. So, in around 5 to 6 months' time, the refuse is converted into manure and which can be returned to the field. Now, this is method is of refuse is very effective and relatively simple in rural communities. This is mostly done by people who are living independently in houses where they have a backyard and they have a kitchen garden. Next one is the burial. Now here a trench is excavated, and at the end of each day the trench is filled with earth and is compacted. This method is suitable for small camps and all. So these are the different methods of solid waste disposal. So I hope now you are able to understand what is waste and waste management, how to classify waste, what are the health hazards of waste, and how do you manage the solid waste by dumping, sanitary landfill, control tipping, composting, and your manure pits, burial, incineration, etc. So thank you.